Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Singer-songwriter Shawn Colvin performs live at the Birchmere tonight in Alexandria, Virginia. We spoke in 2017 when she performed at the Kennedy Center Spring Gala tribute to John Lennon, taking a deep dive into her own Grammy-winning hit Sunny Came Home, which won Record of the Year and Song of the Year in 1998. Thanks so much for joining us, Shawn.
Absolutely. Thank you.
How did they recruit you to get involved in this?
I don't know. I maybe if I had paid more attention, I would. But I was like, tribute to John Lennon, Kennedy Center. No problem.
I'm there.
I'm in.
So that was an easy sell. Have you ever
easy sell.
Have you ever performed there before?
I don't believe I have. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's an awesome space. Well, have you been there? Have you ever even been there to even see anything?
To the Kennedy Center?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, wow.
I'm hopeless. Yeah, I know.
No, that's cool. It's going to be that's going to make it even cooler for you. I'm excited for you. It's an awesome space.
I've seen it on TV.
Just explain. I mean, you kind of mentioned it off the top. When you heard John Lennon, you're like, I got to be there. But explain sort of his, there's been so much written about his musical contributions, but why to you, are you such a fan of John Lennon?
Well, let me just say, if it had been last year with Marvin Gaye, I would have jumped at that chance too. So, they're picking great people. Well, John Lennon, gosh. I'm performing You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. And, John Lennon, I can't even describe the depth of meaning that John Lennon's work has provided for me. And I like to say that You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. The performance of that on Help is something, again, that when I watched that performance, and this isn't, the only song that I was interested in doing, but I'm so proud to do it. I'm a little nervous because nobody will ever do it justice but him and the rest of the Beatles. But I can't even describe the spark that I get from that, how moved I am when I watch him sing it, just the immensity of the talent, and it's just so deep. It's just so deep for me. I wish I could be more specific with you, but the years of pleasure and inspiration I've gotten from John Lennon, and the brief sort of time he had to give it to us, and the sheer volume and brilliance of what he's contributed to us, to me, is immeasurable.
Absolutely. Before he did his awesome, amazing solo stuff, I mean, you're sort of alluding to all of his Beatles stuff. Everybody has sort of their own, every Beatles fan has like their one of the four that they're more. Some are more of a George guy or a Paul guy, but were you always a John guy, or how did that play?
Let me see. When I was young, my friends and I did not pretend to be Beatles girlfriends. We pretended to be the Beatles.
Haircuts too?
Not so much the haircut, but the hairbrush microphones, certainly.
Nice.
And, play them at full tilt volume and act like we were them. And you know what? I can't honestly remember if I was Paul or John, but those are, I was like 9 or 10. And, in the ensuing years, I've just become enamored, that's not even the adequate word, of all of them. I've gotten way deep into it, probably deeper than anybody should get. And I have friends who are so trivia savvy on everything that they've done. George, Ringo, Paul, John, all of them. But we're here to honor John Lennon. And yes, his solo stuff is, equally important to me, and certainly was different and showed his evolution, as a person. And his values and his feelings, and the depth of his emotion about his life and his consciousness about it. So that was great work.
Absolutely. And there's a ton of people, along with yourself, that are going to be performing as well. Corinne Bailey Rae, Judy Collins, Taj Mahal, Stephen Van Sant, Esperanza Spalding. It goes on and on. But are you fans of these folks too? Or are you?
Yeah, Amos Lee too.
Yeah, Amos Lee.
I want to mention Amos Lee.
Man, tons of people.
Oh yeah, Yeah, I think it's a great group. Probably Judy Collins in particular, was a huge influence of mine. I don't even know what she's singing. But my parents introduced me to Judy Collins when I was quite young. She was one of the first concerts I ever went to. I covered a lot of her songs and her interpretations of songs. So that's going to be a real thrill. And I just have, utmost respect for everybody that's playing. We'll do an opener all together and an encore all together, and I think it's going to be fabulous.
That's great. Do you know what Corinne Bailey Rae is going to be performing?
I should, but I don't know. I think I've kind of kept it a secret to myself so that I would be pleasantly surprised. Yeah. There's songs I wanted to tackle, but I do not have the voice to do them. So, Don't Let Me Down is one of them. I couldn't pull that off. We'll see if anybody does. I'm sure it's going to be great.
I'm sure we'll hear all of them. Imagine and Working Class Hero and Give Peace a Chance and
Oh yeah.
I don't know, Instant Karma. God, there's so many. Not to mention all of those are just the single stuff, but all the Beatles stuff. Man, the songbook is amazing to choose from. And then I think the whole event's going to be emceed by David Duchovny. Are you an X-Files gal?
Yeah, and have come to find through another project that was done recently called In Their Lives, Writers Write on Beatles Songs. And I was a part of that. I submitted a piece on a song, and apparently David Duchovny is, massive, sick Beatles and John Lennon fan, like just a few of us in this world. And he was also part of that book, which will be coming out, I think, May 17th. Anyway, don't want to promote that. We're here to talk about something else. But yeah, I imagine he'll be, great, and obviously loves the subject.
That's so great. Let's remind listeners that we've talked a lot about John Lennon, but let's go into Shawn Colvin's music career for a little bit, because we all remember Sunday Came Home, of course. But way before that, you grew up in South Dakota, is that right? But then didn't you move around a little bit, all over the place, Illinois, London, all over the place? How did you get into music?
I was born into music, and that's the truth. I had listened to church music when I was little. I was in a small enough town. We didn't have AM radio. My brother wasn't into rock and roll, so I didn't have him as a predecessor to introduce me to Elvis and stuff like that, which I got into later. But, when the Beatles got on Ed Sullivan, woo, that was a big turning point for me. But before then, I was in junior choir. I loved the church music. I took piano lessons starting at age 6, and my dad was a huge Kingston Trio fan, and we had guitars and banjos in the house. And he taught me to play when I was about 10 years old, and I couldn't put it down after that. So I loved singing. I learned to play the guitar, and I was off.
That's awesome. Tell me about the Dixie Diesels down in Austin.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we started in Illinois, actually, where I went to high school. And Dixie Diesels were very much patterned after Asleep at the Wheel. And I was the sort of the token girl singer. I was an important part of the band, but I was not the leader of the band. But I really got, up till then, I'd listened to mostly folk music and pop music. And I really got well-versed in country music and swing music. And then moved to Austin, which exposed me to even more of that. And we would play dance halls, and I learned the two-step and the schottisch. It's a whole other culture, and great songwriters, storytellers in this area that I heretofore hadn't known anything about, like Joe Ely and Butch Hancock and Uncle Walt's band, which people don't generally know about that group, and just a whole slew of amazing storytellers, Texas guys and girls.
It's awesome. But speaking of the folk stuff, you made your way to Greenwich Village and even did some off-Broadway stuff?
I did. I worked as a waitress a lot, but I liked to think I could act a little bit. But the musical I was in was actually a Broadway show, but it was a touring act of that show. It was called Pump Boys and Dinettes. And
that was the show? We literally just interviewed Deborah Monk, who wrote some of the music.
No,
yeah,
what a great actress
oh
too.
my God.
Deborah's really done great.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Well, I played Deborah Monk's part, and Maria Muldaur played Cass's part.
That's
so
great.
we were the two waitresses. We were the dinettes. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's so funny.
Yeah, it was.
How did you make your way to get signed by Columbia then?
Well, after many years of just covering people's songs, I met John Leventhal, and he said, "Why don't you write some lyrics to some stuff I have?" And because I was a really reluctant writer, I thought, how am I going to ever be as good as these songwriters that I simply cherish and are heroes of mine, like Joni Mitchell and James Taylor and Jackson Browne and Paul Simon and the Beatles, of course. And so we wrote some songs like that, and they were really bad. And I was trying to write pop music. And, I was just so sick of trying to find a genre for myself. And then it occurred to me several years into things, maybe when I was 27 years old, that my heroes were, by and large, folk music heroes and songwriters that could hold their own with an acoustic guitar in their voice. And I thought, I'm good at that. But the only thing that was missing was really writing decent songs, which I, with all my heart and soul, wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So once I kind of made that realization of what my real voice was and what I was good at, I changed up my songwriting style. I took pieces of music that John gave me, and I would transpose them to just acoustic guitar, even if they were fully produced demos. And because of that, I wrote a song called Diamond in the Rough, and that was kind of the launch pad, for me. I was like, okay, this makes sense. This is how I was meant to write. It's the music I was meant to do, and everything kind of followed that.
Awesome. I just think these backstories are fascinating. All right, so your debut album, Steady On, it won a Grammy, right, for contemporary folk album?
It did.
What was that like? Did you go to the ceremony?
Heck yeah, I did.
Memories.
It was my first record. I was like 29 years old. I'd been trying to do this all my life. That's relatively old to get a record deal and put out your first record. And I felt after Steady On came on that if I never did anything else, I would have made my dream come true, and I was a happy, satisfied person. Just the fact that it came out. And, they have a dinner the night before the Grammys, kind of a nominee celebration dinner, and Bonnie Raitt was there. And she took me aside, and she kind of whispered, and she said, "I voted for you."
Oh, my God.
Now, I know. So just getting nominated, the record coming out, somebody like Bonnie Raitt saying that to me was, it was as good as winning. I never expected to win. And then my friend Mary Chapin Carpenter was there, and I'll never forget this. I went off stage, and she was there, and I was just so over the moon. And I just attacked her and gave her this bear hug. And I only found out later that I had stepped on her toe.
No.
When I did that, and was just killing her. But she didn't stop me. So that was bliss. That was a dream come true. Not stepping on her toe. Winning the award.
Did she scream? That was the shout down at the Twist and Shout. Now we know where she gets her song lyrics. Mary Chapin. That's great.
No, she didn't make a peep. She held me and was as dear as could be, and only told me later that I had squished her toe.
That's so great. Take me into I love I love it because everyone's like too many people get caught up into whether your song wins or not at those awards, but these human stories like with Mary Chapin or like you said with Bonnie Raitt giving the compliment, that must just mean so much more than any accolade. So that's so awesome.
It does. It's not. Of course, you always want to meet your heroes, mm-hmm. But when your heroes say, "I like what you do," I don't think there's anything better than that.
No,
I just don't.
That's valid. That's validation right there. Take me into coming up with "I Don't Know Why," that song. I remember that one well. Did you write that one?
I did. I wrote that one by myself years before I wrote anything else, which is kind of contrary to what I just told you. But I didn't think I was a songwriter, and I just moved to New York, and I was really kind of bereft and lonely, and I was taking the D train to the Bronx, and that song just came into my head. And it's sort of like a comforting lullaby that I didn't write for anybody but myself. I was kind of writing this I don't know. I don't know where it came from. And the music and the lyrics came into my head. I don't know if I even played it for months. I just knew what it sounded like. But it finally ended up on my second record called Fat City. And I'll never forget, the record company is always looking for a single, of course. And Sinead O'Connor's version of Nothing Compares to You was out at the time. And so the record company was like, we need to make it sound like Nothing Compares to You. So that was the inspiration for the production, which I wasn't, thrilled about, but I made compromises in those days.
That's funny. For a song name, you're trying to compare to Nothing Compares. I don't know if that worked out, but it worked out for you. You got nominated again. I think, you've been nominated for like 10 different Grammys, so whatever. They all run together after a while.
Well, I think 7, maybe, not 10, but who's counting?
Whatever it is, it's a pretty high count. All right, well, we'd be remiss if we don't go into Sunny Came Home, because that one won Song and Record of the Year. I was like, that must have just been a whirlwind experience. But I want to know how you came up with that one, because you co-wrote it with Leventhal, right?
I did. Again, he had some music. It was the last song to be completed. I was stuck, and what happened was, and by the way, with a few small repairs, that record, we gave up trying to please the record company, and it just goes to show you what happens when you just follow your thing and try not to worry about, what's marketable or what somebody else thinks might be successful. At any rate, I didn't know what to write, and I started lyrics that were really bad. But ahead of time, I had decided, I don't want my picture on the cover of this record. All of it's been a photograph of me. And what I really want is a painting by this woman, Julie Speed, who is a friend and whose work I adore. It's almost, it's got a wry sense of humor many times. And if people don't remember, this painting was of a woman in the foreground with a lit match, on obviously a vast prairie, which resonated with me being from South Dakota. And in the background was clearly a massive fire. And I thought a few small repairs, which is another title of a different painting that she has, a few small repairs, which is kind of funny to me because obviously these were not small repairs or even repairs. This was like arson, And I thought, why not write about the woman in the painting? And this was really new for me because I don't write about characters much. I kind of write about myself. And then the lyrics started to come to me. Sunny Came Home. So that was her name. I think I called her Sally at first, honestly. And then I changed that. Sunny's better.
That's so fascinating that I was inspired by paintings. I love that. That's such a great story. That's great. Well, if you think about it though, lyrics, you're painting a picture in your mind. It's kind of like doing radio, though, like what we do, but for you music, explain how sort of when you're writing lyrics, you're literally painting visual pictures in listeners' minds.
You're trying to, yeah. I think good songs have, I don't know how I want to put it, even visuals within the emotion, Mm-hmm. You can't just kind of bleed on the page every time. But this was a great, you're in every song. I'm in Sunny, it was just, but I'll tell you, that song was fun. It was just flat out fun, and they're not always fun.
Absolutely. I think it's great. Between that one and Independence Day, two of the best songs of the 90s, burning down houses.
Oh, great.
Just burning houses.
Burning down houses.
But
I know.
But and
Who would have thought?
But all the symbolism. Talk about how in that at least how the fire is sort of symbolic. Escaping your past, moving on. There's a lot you can do with fire.
There's a lot you can do. You're obviously, you're getting rid of stuff. But I think in Sunny's case, and I don't really know why she did what she did, but she set the fire, obviously. And I think she was getting revenge on someone. I think she was escaped, though. You're right. She was escaping something probably pretty horrible, and liberating herself.
I love it. Well, it's an amazing song and a consistently enjoyable career from you. So we love your music, and we're looking forward to seeing you back out there to salute John Lennon. I guess just in closing, why should we come out? If they heard this, what gets them there? Why should they come?
Oh gosh, well, it's an incredible. Kennedy Center certainly deserves to be supported big time. I mean, it's an incredible cause, and part of the payoff is the entertainment. And if you want to hear some great artists cover John Lennon, and why wouldn't you? Treat yourself. It's bound to be inspiring, certainly beautiful, and it's for a great institution.
Awesome. Well, you're more than generous with your time. Shawn Colvin on WTOP, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, and thanks for your support. I sure appreciate it.
All right. See you there.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.